Can you step back? Don't aim forward with your seeing and knowing, aiming forward, projecting forward. No. Step back from the stepping back itself. Step back from the body and the mind, from all things. Step back from the stepping back itself. Can you do that? This is all the same essence. No grasping on its own. If you cannot purify the sustaining, then it's still blocking you. No grasping on its own with everything. Is it okay? Is it possible? No grasping on its own. Is it fluent? Don't be unclear. Don't be stuck with just sustaining, maintaining. Step back from the stepping back itself. Is it possible? Is it fluent? This will conclude all about the non-attachment totally. Not attached to the non-attachment itself. This is the essence. Is it fluent? No grasping on its own simultaneously. Proceeding simultaneously. So that it will not become just being awkward, being stuck with just projecting or not, being upright or not, proceeding simultaneously with everything non-attachment on its own. This will help greatly for samsara through the purification of the extinction and the emptiness. Is it fluent with the essence of non-grasping on its own? This is not only about pulling in, pulling out, being upright or not, projecting or not. No grasping on its own is possible or not. Let's purify without limits, without traces. Purify endlessly, countlessly, without separating who is new, who is before, who is after, having perfection or not. Let's purify without limits, endlessly, countlessly, without separation, whether it is those who have the perfection or not. No grasping on its own with everything simultaneously. Is it fluent now? Let's continue without limits, without steps. No grasping on its own without steps, without moments. This is the purification of the extinction and the emptiness that is given all at once, not having any options whether it's samsara or not. Let's purify through the emptiness evenly for everything simultaneously. With everything, non-grasping is on its own. Proceed simultaneously with everything. This is beyond proceeding to help through unwinding and releasing normally, because it is simultaneously given. Let's not be concerned with the sustaining of knowing and seeing. It is blocking oneself. It has to be in a way that is boundless, no grasping for the non-grasping itself without limits. having no limit in the way that is non-grasping on its own, non-grasping on its own without limits. Therefore, the way of limitations to a certain extent is still stuck. It's like discarding on its own, giving up on its own, letting go on its own is not absolute. No grasping on its own is not absolute. Being concerned with the usage of body, mind, looking, seeing, knowing, being concerned with aiming, projecting, uprighting, therefore is not absolute. Purification of the extinction and emptiness is not absolute because there is too much concern with the usage of body and mind, with being upright or not, with projecting or not, being concerned with the usage of body and mind too much. There is no need to hesitate. With everything, just no non-grasping on its own right away. There is no need to be hesitate with anything. There is no need to be awkward. Disengage from itself simultaneously right away. Then the mighty force of the purification will be evenly given with everything. Non-grasping is on its own at all times. Proceed with this at all times. Non-attachment on its own to be proceeded at all times. Then automatically there will be no concern, no worries about anything whatsoever. Disengaging from itself at all times, child. Non-grasping on its own at all times, so that there is no concern with anything whatsoever. Automatically, there will not be any worries or concerns. This kind of disorder of worries and concerns, no any kind of medicines in this world cannot heal, cannot cure at all, except that retreat from the retreat itself only, step back from the stepping back itself only. Everything is non-attachment on its own only, in all worries and concerns. Non-grasping on its own has to be proceeded at all times with everything in the way without limits. Boundlessness is to be proceeded in the way that the non-grasping is on its own. Brighten out in the way that the non-grasping is on its own without limits. Beyond awakening, beyond dispersing, beyond brightening. Non-grasping on its own at all times. Automatically, the awakening and brightening will be beyond itself. This is called boundlessness. being obsessed to give meanings and significance. There are a lot of concerns and worries because of this. Step back from the stepping back itself with everything. This is not about grasping. Non-grasping on its own, absolutely, let it be fluent. Everything is non-grasping on its own. The mind doesn't grasp for itself. Any state of mind, any conditions, knowing or seeing doesn't grasp for itself. Inside or outside is not about grasping. Non-grasping is on its own with everything. The anicca doesn't grasp for itself as it is. The anatta doesn't grasp for itself as it is as well. With everything, non-attachment on its own, let it be fluent. Disengage in a way without limits. It's not just about disengaging and that's it. Non-grasping in a way without limits. This is not about being limited with just non-grasping. Non-grasping for the non-grasping itself. It's not just about the non-grasping. Non-grasping for the non-grasping itself. That which is boundless. It's not just about no grasping or grasping. Non-grasping is on its own. That which is boundless is not just about disengaging or not. Disengage, even from disengagement itself, it doesn't grasp for itself. This will be by the essence. That which has nothing to do with attachment or non-attachment, grasping or not grasping. That which has nothing to do with involvement or uninvolvement. It has nothing to do with involvement or uninvolvement. This will unlock the delusive attachments, unlocking all the bindings. That which has nothing to do with both involvement or uninvolvement. That which doesn't take in whether it is taking or not taking, grasping or non-grasping. Proceed with the non-grasping that is on its own at all times. Proceed simultaneously with everything, child. Step back from the stepping back itself simultaneously with everything. In this way, there will be benefits for oneself and for all simultaneously, in the way with the purification to the extinction. Step back to not grasp for the non-grasping itself with everything, with everything. This will help through unwinding and releasing altogether simultaneously. Non-grasping for the non-grasping itself is the same essence. This is not just about the mind doesn't grasp for the mind itself. Non-grasping is on its own, ending the ending itself, and proceeds simultaneously with everything, with the essence, so that there is no need to learn about the great compassion again. That is called self-purification, self-dissolvent. No grasping purifies the non-grasping itself. Disengaging purifies itself as well. No grasping purifies itself as well. It dissolves itself. No grasping for the non-grasping itself. It dissolves itself within the non-grasping itself. With everything is non-grasping on its own simultaneously. The mighty force of the purification of the extinction and the emptiness for the internal and the external evenly. Cutting off a lot more the off-sided, the aiming, the projecting from the desire. Being obsessed with just throwing forward, projecting forward, aiming forward. Step back towards disengaging on its own, non-grasping on its own, simultaneously with the whole samsara. It will cut off the off-sided by the delusive attachment, by the desire and the delusion. Step back towards disengaging on its own, towards non-attachment on its own, towards non-grasping on its own completely. There is no need to have any consideration with the gates of perceptions of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. There is no need to be afraid to lose, knowing or not knowing, seeing or not seeing, internally or externally within the perceptions. Step back to disengage on its own completely. This will turn into purification without traces through the extinction and the emptiness. With the non-grasping on its own, it will purify without limits automatically by the extinction and the emptiness. To be obsessed, to deludedly not attached to this and that. Instead, non-attachment doesn't attach to itself. Step back to the non-attachment on its own. It is not about not attached to anything. Let's purify self-purification within the non-attachment itself. Not attached to the non-attachment itself. It dissolves itself. The non-attached dissolves itself. It doesn't grasp for itself. End all about being the noble ones, being the worldlings. The non-attachment purifies itself. Step back to the non-attachment on its own with everything simultaneously. non-attachment on its own, on its own, on its own. Step back towards non-grasping on its own, disengagement on its own. Non-grasping on its own, it doesn't grasp for itself. Non-grasping purifies itself, it dissolves itself. Proceed simultaneously. This is, as usual, is called the Great Compassion. Benefits for oneself and for all is the purification of the extinction and the emptiness that is simultaneously given. This is not benefits for oneself and for individual. That's not the way. Benefit for oneself and for all. It means that the purification of the extinction and the emptiness is simultaneously given for everything. The great compassion is for all. Non-grasping on its own in the way that is brightening with awakening, so that there will be power to purify samsara. May all karma be forgiven. Ahosi, ahosi, ahosi.